Welcome back. Today I'm going to work on some chess puzzles, which I've been needing to do for a few weeks now, but I kind of took a break during the holidays. So hopefully as I talk through my thought processes as I solve these puzzles, that will help some of you, and hopefully it'll help me because I need the practice. Let's just go. Right here I have pulled up the random puzzle on Lichess, and as you can see, my rating is 1893, not as high as it has been. I'm playing with the white pieces. My opponent has lined up their queen with my king. I can take it, but then they would take me back with their rook, and then I'm not sure what I would have at that point. Also, at that point, my knight would be hanging. No, my rook would still be guarding my knight. But let's see. My bishop is pinned. I do know that. Can't move my bishop right now. What can I do? I could move this knight, perhaps here. Would that work? No. My queen is undefended. Okay, see, this is why I need the practice. Right now, my queen is completely undefended. My queen is hanging. Can I move my queen someplace safe? That's a safe square. That's a safe square. I could move my queen to one of those squares. I think if I leave my queen anywhere on my third rank, that this rook could come down and immediately challenge me. Let's go back to this. If I take their queen and they take my queen, then we would be even. Then I would put my knight on b3, which would fork their rook and their bishop. However, at that point, they could move their bishop to b4, which would be threatening my rook. And then if I took their rook on a1, they would take my rook, and we would still be even on material. What else? If I take their queen, they take my queen. I could take their pawn. It would be a free pawn. Or I could do that. I could go ahead and play my knight to b3. Let's see. If I played my knight to b3, and they did move their bishop to threaten my rook, I could just move my rook. Oh, I could move my rook down there and check them, and their rook would still be under attack. But then they could move their rook up here and threaten my knight. No, they couldn't, because their king would have to get out of check. Okay, I think I've got this one solved. It took me maybe too long. Okay, I take their queen. They take back. I get my knight out of the way of my rook, threatening their rook and their bishop. So I assume at that point they would move either their rook or their bishop. I don't know where. And then I would be threatening this check. And when they got out of check, I would win whichever piece they hadn't moved. So let's try that. That was that. Okay, then if that was correct, then I think this is correct. Oh, they moved their rook there, threatening this pawn. Okay, well then I can just take their bishop now, I think. Should I check first? No, if I check first, they'll block with the bishop. Okay, wow. Almost didn't get that one, and it took me about 4 minutes, all right? Unless I had a 1-minute introduction, then it took me 3 minutes. Okay, and if you haven't done puzzles on Lichess, the way that you get to the next puzzle is you click the green thumbs up button. We move my camera view like so, then you can see the green thumbs up button, and that's what we click to get to the next puzzle. Hey, there we are. Okay, the opponent has moved their bishop here, which is threatening my queen. I think here I can, oh, no. I was going to say I could check, and when they got out of check, then I would win the bishop. But if I checked, then their queen would just take my knight. Yeah, if I checked now, their queen would take my knight, and then I could take their bishop, but we would have just come out even at that point. Let's see, what else can I do? Oh, I can take their bishop with my queen, and then they would take back, I assume. Then I would check, and when they moved out of check, let's see, I guess they could go there or there, and then I would win their queen with the knight. So let's do that. Okay, all right. I'm surprised I got that one. That's good. Let's go to the next one. There's no guarantee that I will get all of these that I'm going for here. Okay, their king has moved out of check. I'm playing with the black pieces. I can check again multiple ways. There's here, but I think that just invites a queen trade, and then I would lose a pawn out of that deal. I could check with the bishop, but I think the king could just take the bishop. However, knowing that the bishop guards that spot might be key to solving this. Is this a mate in one? Because I just realized my queen is guarding this pawn, and that pawn is cutting off these two squares. My queen is cutting off all of these squares. So if I move this, move my f pawn to f6, which is check, and then my bishop will be guarding that. That will leave only one legal move for the king. Here, let's see. The king wouldn't be able to take either one of those pawns. It would not be able to move to any of the squares forward, so it would have to go down here. But then would I have a follow-up check? I don't think so. Okay. So it's not quite mate because the king gets out, and So that one makes me wonder. I've had a few puzzles where the first move was putting my king into a position to guard squares. That's not the case here, because if I do that, so it's not that, I'm pretty sure, because of the possibility, oh yeah, queen to the corner would be mate. Okay, there's something else. Wait, what about, no, their knight is guarding that square, and their queen. Okay, because that also would be a check, but that's not good either. Maybe it is this. Maybe it is f6, forcing the king back here. I would have the follow-up check here, but then that unguards my g-pawn, and the king would take it. There's a check here, but they can block. Oh, well, they wouldn't want to. Let's see. If I check here, but then the king could go to any of the squares on the fifth or the fourth rank. So maybe, is there something else? I'm pretty sure it's not taking the bishop, because I just lose a queen that way. So I think it has to be one of these multiple checks or threats of mate. That pawn is hanging, but again, I'm pretty sure it's not that. Okay, and I know for a fact it's not this, because we already said that's mate. So there's something else. King gets out, and I don't have a follow-up check because my pawn is blocking the bishop's path across there. And if I follow that check up with a queen move, then that unguards this pawn. The king goes there. Well, then I could move my king behind my f-pawn, which would guard both of those pawns. But then the opponent would have a check right there with their queen, leaving me only 2 squares. Well, I guess I could block with my queen at that point. Okay, what about a bishop move first to protect that pawn from behind and also guard that square? Let's see, if I put my bishop on g7 to guard those 2 squares, and my queen's already cutting off these, my pawn's cutting off those, and I would be preparing to checkmate with my f-pawn at that point. Okay, they could then check me here, but I would get out of it, and I would still be threatening mate with the pawn move. I think that might be it, but we're about to find out. No, that wasn't it. Okay, was it the pawn? Okay, it was the pawn. All right, well, I lost 22 points for that, but now I don't know what to do, because I thought maybe go here to protect the pawns, but then that opens me up to this check, which I could block with my queen, but then they still have a rook. Okay, and again here, if I check with the queen, that exposes this pawn. Oh, but then I checkmate right there. Okay. Okay, I should have followed that line out a couple of moves further. That's all right. Let's keep going. I'm 11 minutes in. I'm going to try to get at least 20 minutes, but no more than 30. Once again, opponent has attacked my queen. I do have a check. It would be there. That's a check with the knight, but that just loses to the pawn, and then I don't have a good follow-up. I could move my queen out of danger over to b2, which would pin the knight to the king, but then what happens? Because something would happen at that point. I could just put my queen there, but I don't know what good that would do. I could take the knight with my rook, but I think then they would take back, and then what would I have? Okay, now this one seems really complicated. So I don't think it's a check, because there's not a good follow-up after knight captures f5 check, and then pawn captures, the g-pawn captures f5, right? I wouldn't have a follow-up check, because the pawn guards that square from my queen. The knight guards that square. Oh, actually, you know what? Their knight guards that square too. So that, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's not that. And I don't think it's anything else getting out of the way of my queen, because then they would just take my queen. Is it threatening their queen with my rook? I don't think so, because my queen would still be under threat, and B, they could just take my rook, and if I took back, they could take my other rook, and they would have gotten 2 rooks for a queen, and my queen would still be in danger. Is it just moving the queen out of danger? To there? Or to here? Or to here? All right, well, there's going to be an edited long pause here. I can tell that right now. Yeah, the only capture I have in the position is that pawn. So it's not, I don't think it's a capture. And that's the only check I have, so it's not a check. Not a capture, it's not a check. Then is it a threat? A threat of what? What can I threaten? I think. Well, okay, there's another capture in the position, but then what can I threaten at that point? Yeah, I'm going to lose this puzzle too. And it's probably going to be really obvious once I run the evaluation, but in a game, in this situation, I would get my queen out of danger right now. Oh, that was right. Well, then here it makes sense to capture the queen with the knight, right? No, because then the rook would come in, but then I would have to capture the rook at that point. They would take. Oh, but then I would be left with 2 rooks for a rook and a knight. I take this now and they take back, oh, it's going to end up the same that way too. I don't know. I'm going to take the queen with my knight. Oh, that was right. Wow. Okay. I solved that puzzle purely by accident. I thought it could have gone either way, and it just ended there. So not sure exactly why that was right, and I apologize for not being able to explain it to you. But rather than going into the analysis board and trying to figure out why one was better than the other, I'm just going to go to the next puzzle. It does show that my instincts are good, though, at least sometimes, because in that one I had no idea what the solution was. I couldn't find anything, so I thought to myself, what would I do if I were in a game? And in a game, I would have just gotten my queen out of danger. That turned out to be the right move. So, okay. Now in this game, in this puzzle, I'm playing with the black pieces. The opponent has just threatened my bishop with this pawn. I have a pawn 1 square from promotion, but they have a queen guarding that square, and their queen is guarding the square that I could check on if that pawn weren't in the way. So I could promote to a knight with check, but then they would just take it, and I would have lost my passed pawn, and they would still be threatening my bishop. So I don't think it's promoting at this point. And I don't think it's lining up here for a check because, again, their queen, well, and their knight guards that spot too. I suppose I could put my pawn here to threaten their knight. Then if they took my bishop, I could take their knight, but then I would have tripled pawns, and they would have a queen for my rook. I'm down an exchange here, a big exchange. I suppose I could go there. I could play rook to e4, which threatens their queen, protected by this pawn, so they would get their queen out of danger. But wouldn't they just move it here? And if this was a game, I don't know what I would do. I would assume I was lost. I don't think it's sacrificing the bishop for the pawn, but maybe it is. If I take the pawn, that's check. I assume the king would take it. Then I could check here on e3, but then the king would just take my pawn, and I could take this h-pawn. Oh, no, I couldn't, because the knight guards that square. Okay. In a game, I think I would be tempted to play bishop to g5, but then I know that they're just going to push their h-pawn, pretty sure, and then I would have to move my bishop again. What am I missing? But if I bring my bishop all the way back here, I think the reason that they moved this pawn wasn't necessarily just not only to attack my bishop, but also to open up their king's path toward my pawn. Because now that the pawn is out of the way, the king can go pick this pawn off where it stands. And if the pawn moves, the queen can get it. So that was kind of a double purpose move, I think. So should I just move my bishop there, which is what I think I would do in a game? Well, then they're going to move toward that pawn, and that pawn is lost. Okay, yeah, I have no idea. But yeah, in a game, I would put my bishop on f6, so that's what I'm going to do. That wasn't right. Okay, was it taking the pawn? No. Was it promoting to a knight? No. Was it promoting to a queen? No. Was it going here? No. Was it threatening their knight with a pawn? No. Was it threatening their queen? No. Okay, so all the moves that I considered, all my candidate moves that I considered during this puzzle were wrong. Well, what other moves are there? Wait, is it moving here? Oh, I didn't even consider that to protect the promotion square. Now I promote to a queen? Oh, so it wasn't about my bishop at all. It was about my passed pawn and how to ensure that the passed pawn made it to the end. Okay, that can be a valuable lesson to me and maybe to some of you, that when you have a pawn 1 square from promotion, not only does it become more valuable and a bigger target for the opponent, but it becomes a higher and higher priority for you, especially if you're otherwise down on material, like I was here. Focus on that passed pawn and what we can do to get it to its final destination. Okay, well, I am slightly higher, I think, than I started, so let's do another puzzle. We're over 20 minutes now by my count, which is the count that matters for me. Even if the edited video is shorter, I still used this much time to make it. The pawn is threatening my knight. There seems to be a theme here of pawns threatening my pieces. I can check. Let's consider checks first. I can check with the bishop. The king has numerous ways to get out of that check. They couldn't capture my bishop, but it could move out of check forward, this way, or this way, I think. Would be 4 possible moves to get out of check, besides blocking with the rook. I don't think it would block with the rook. I think it would move out of check. And that 4 possibilities makes it too difficult to calculate each one, I think. Let's see, what else? I can move my knight out of danger, which would threaten their rook. But then I don't know where they would move their rook, because there's everywhere else I move my knight looks bad. Well, it doesn't go that way. But yeah, if I move my knight here, well, it could go there. That's what I said, right? Knight to c5 threatens the rook. Okay, I think that's the only safe square, because here the rook wins it, here the king wins it, and on g5, either one of those pawns could take it. And that would put me in check. Okay, so I'm pretty sure it's not knight to g5. Relatively certain that it's not knight to f4 or knight to d4, because I just lose a knight in those situations. Maybe it is a check, but then that's the only square where I can move my knight. No, it's not. I can put my knight on c7. But if I put my knight on c7, doesn't this pawn advance again, threatening my knight again? Oh, but then I could put the knight back. But then the pawn would come forward again, and I would have to get in front of it. Let's play what I would play in a game, which is knight to c5. That was not it. Was it taking the pawn? No. Was it check? It was check. Okay. Oh, and then winning the rook. Wait, that was it? I'm still going to lose my knight, though. Well, that's what I didn't see at the beginning when I considered the check. I discounted the check because there were too many possibilities for the king to get out of check. What I did not consider was that I was skewering the rook at the back. Okay. Well, I don't remember what the exact rating was at the beginning of this, but I'm pretty sure that I'm below that now. Okay, this knight is threatening my knight. If I take it, they would take back, I think. No, if I take it, that's check, and their queen is there. So their queen could not take that knight. If I take the knight, they'd have to take back with the pawn or the other knight. Then I could take their queen, but they could take with the bishop. Maybe I should take with the bishop first. No. Take with check first. They have to take back. When they take back, our queens will be facing each other. I'll win the bishop because the queen would not be able to protect the bishop at that point because of this pin. So their queen would have to take my queen, which I would take back, and I would be a piece ahead. That's got to be it. Okay. Then take the bishop because their queen is pinned. Okay. That was it. And I think 1877 plus 22 is 1899, which I believe is a few points higher than where I started this video. As you can see, I do need some work, but I think I've improved because a couple of these, like the one I just did, this used to be my weak point, and it still is kind of my weak point, these early middle game puzzles, where it looks like we haven't finished the opening yet. I'm really weak on these, but I figured out a couple of them in this little session here. So that gives me hope for the future. Thank you for watching. Hopefully this helped, and we'll see you next time.